Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Boker Tov. We're just finished Pesach, but Pesach is alive and well. Because Pesach is not just 8 days in the Jewish calendar affecting the digestive system. Pesach is 365 days in our minds and hearts affecting our psychological system. Hence, the Torah tells us this beautiful verse. It's not a verse, it's a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah from Pesachim, which says, 361. In each and every generation, a person is obliged to regard himself as if he had come out of Egypt. For it is written, "You shall tell your son in that day, it is an account of what God did for me when I came out of Egypt." Now, Chuck, have you ever been to Egypt? So what on earth is this Mishnah talking about when it says that I came out of Egypt?
Well, they're talking about coming out of exile, right?
Your limitation.
And your own personal...
your own personal exile.
Personal exile.
Yes, your own personal exile. Nice.
Whoa.
An enlightened scholar. I love it. But now, so we've discussed the problem. Now let's talk about the solution. One more piece I want to do just to bridge before Pesach to after Pesach. I'm actually moving to 365 right now. 365. And we're really zeroed in on what the exile is. The exile is the hostages that are being held against their will, and that is inside of yourself. Did you know that you have a hostage inside of you? You have a hostage inside of you that you might have forgotten about. What a travesty to forget about the hostages. Can you imagine? In Columbia and NYU and other enlightened bastions of wisdom here in America, they are protesting so that Israel should cease fire. Why aren't they protesting for Hamas to cease fire? Right? Why aren't they protesting for Hamas to release the hostages? Oh, that's not my problem. But somehow the civilians of Gaza is their problem, right? This is mind-blowing, right? The logic here is just beyond me. There is no logic. It's just vitriol. So forgetting about the hostages is such a travesty, such a crime. Yet here we're going to learn about the hostage within you and how we might have forgotten about that hostage. And when we can remember the hostage, we're on our way to freeing it, him, her. And today we're going to learn, first of all, about who the hostage is. We discussed it briefly before Pesach in the previous session of this sequence. But we're going to learn about who the hostage is, and we're going to learn about the beautiful pathway to getting the hostage out, okay? I'm just going to do it verbally first. So we've learned that God created us with not one, but two souls inside of ourselves. We have a conflicting dynamic, a tension within each and every single one of us. What is that? If you've ever felt somewhat schizophrenic, have you ever felt schizophrenic? Have you ever approached the buffet line, Velvel? And I'm treading.
You're treading on thin ice.
When I approach a buffet line, what goes through my mind is,
How much can I possibly
it's mine.
Yeah, but at the same time, Velvel, is there any other conflicting thoughts? Velvel, think about this for a moment. Is there any other conflicting thoughts that says, no, I can't? And then there's like inside of you, there's this war raging. And there's like, you're trying to reach rid of this. Does that ever happen or no? Never happened?
If you look at me, you can answer your own question.
Warren approaches a buffet as Pavarotti approached the Viennese favorite at a bar mitzvah.
Pavarotti.
He was a big eater.
Oh, he was a big eater.
Huge guy.
I thought he had that for his singing.
Both.
He had to eat for a living. All right. Anyways, here's the story, folks. So we each have, we each have conflicting voices. We have conflicting voices. Give you a quick example. I quoted this recently. When you do a sin, for those of us that once in a while might do that. Well, no, present company excluded. When people sin, there's such a thing. They first feel good about it, and then they feel bad about it. Right? First, there's feels so good to sin. Right? When you say lashon hara, when you say lashon hara about someone, it feels so good to stab somebody in the back. Doesn't it feel great to stab somebody in the back?
Come on,
Feels great. I felt like, yeah. And then after a while, you're like, ugh, I shouldn't have done that. That's the conflict right there. When you do a sin, right? Sometimes you give charity more than you're comfortable with. More than you're comfortable with, right? Do you ever experienced that, Vava?
Hey, if you stab someone in the back and you're staying a steel knife, it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
feel as good.
Yeah, mine feels good. Yeah, I would not recommend it. Don't try this at all. So, but sometimes when you do a mitzvah, when you give a lot of charity, or you get out of bed when you're a little too early to do a mitzvah, right? It hurts to get out of bed. It's not easy, but then later on you feel, I feel so good about it, right? There's the conflict within you. You see that, the tension. That's your godly soul versus your natural soul, and they're fighting, right? Their spearheads are Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, and Yetzer Hara is the evil inclination. Now, the way that God created us, we learned this in the previous session, that it says that when God created man, there's an extra letter, Vayitzer, and he created. Vayitzer, and he created. The word "and he created" has an extra yud, which is the numerical value of 10. It's like Vayitzer, and he created. Imagine the word "created" with 2 e's. It'd be like a spelling mistake, right? In Hebrew, Vayitzer with 2 yuds is like, what's an extra yud there for? So the Chassidus explains the extra yud is not by mistake.
That's my letter in the Torah.
Oh, give me a fist bump, man. So the letter yud is number 10. It says numerical value of 10. It's a number. Every letter is a number. It represents a 10 because what's 10? 10 is the number of parts of your soul. There's 3 intellectual and 7 emotional parts of your soul. Your soul is made up of intellect and emotion. 3 intellectual parts, 7 emotional parts. So together, a soul is 10. It's a minion. So
That
an
doesn't
extra.
apply to the animal soul. though.
Yeah. It does apply to the animal soul. Tanya chapter 6, absolutely. So the extra yud tells us that there's 2 yuds. When God created man, there's 2 yuds. There's 2 sets of 10. One godly soul, one animal soul. It says in I think it's Yechezkel, in the book of Ezekiel, when talking about one person, it says, and I created souls. About one person, I created souls. Why souls? Tanya chapter 1 says that means because there's 2 souls in each person, which explains our inner tension. Now, the way it's set up, the way we're about to learn, is that God created us in a way where who's dominant? Who comes first? The godly soul and the animal soul. The animal soul comes in at birth, comes in all guns blazing. Me, mine, give it to me. The kid comes clutching. What's the nature of the animal soul? To take, self-centered. The nature of the godly soul is to give, selfless, right? So you're born clutching, and you die open-handed, right? So the animal soul is thriving at birth. Wants to take. When the godly soul enters, it starts entering at the bris, or the baby naming for a girl. The godly soul finishes entering at the bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah, 12 and 13 years old. Can you imagine? Late to the party. Which means, therefore, that the godly soul is subservient to the animal soul. Chassidus explains that it's actually enclosed within it. The godly soul doesn't have free reign. It cannot do anything. Think about it. The animal soul basically is identified with the body. The animal soul and the body are one. The godly soul is this tenant. So for the godly soul, wants to do a mitzvah. He wants to lay tefillin. Okay, I want to lay tefillin. But now he's got to convince the body to agree. He's got to convince the animal soul to agree. That's not going to be very easy. When the animal soul wants to do something, he doesn't have to convince the godly soul to do it. He just doesn't. Because he's got the right of first refusal on the body. He's got the keys to the kingdom. But when the godly soul wants to do something, he has to convince the animal soul to comply. And that's why it's a difficult process, right? Which is why Chassidus is about to explain that the godly soul is actually held hostage within the animal soul. It's under his jurisdiction.
So basically, in layman's terms, that your intellect is subject to your emotions.
Ooh, let me think
Is
about
that
that.
a
Your
way-
intellect,
another way of saying it?
whoa. This is nice. I like that. Your intellect is subject to your emotions. Why? Why do you say that? Why would your intellect?
Well, that's what I think you're saying. That
Not really.
that people's first reactions to things are
Oh,
often
I'll tell you, yeah.
emotional.
Okay, I think I understand what you're
And then
saying.
their intellect kicks in.
Okay, so I'll tell you what it is. The
and
animal
they
soul,
understand it.
the animal soul is an animal.
Right.
What is dominant in the animal? The intellect or the emotion?
Motion.
Emotion. Animals are instinctive.
They function by
The
motion.
godly soul is the human soul.
Yeah.
What is dominant in the human is the intellect. So the godly soul is personified by its intellect. The animal soul is personified by its emotions. And we've learned that in a different mimer. So now, when we say that the animal soul dominates over the godly soul by default, a default that we need to break, right? In order to do that, what that effectively means in layman's terms is that the intellect is subservient to the emotions by design.
Mhm.
And once we can understand that idea, we're now clarifying the lay of the land so we can figure out how to break free. Yes, I agree with that. So we're starting to understand that the animal soul dominates over the godly soul by default. Hence, when we talk about every Jew being a slave in Egypt and needing to remember the Exodus every single day, this is way beyond matzah for 8 days. It's way beyond the Passover Seder. It's about a personal, psychological exodus, way more than a geographical, historical exodus. This is a personal, psychological experience. If you're sitting around this table, if you're watching this Torah class, you've probably managed to convince your animal soul to participate in Torah study, which is a beautiful thing, right? You're on the way to your journey. You're moving forward. But think about our brethren that it wouldn't even cross their minds to come to shul to study something because they're still being held hostage. Their godly soul doesn't hold a chance in being able to set itself free. It's being held hostage. This godly soul, which is just as godly as our godly souls, their godly soul, which is just as godly as Moses' godly soul, is being forced to hack a chainik. You know what I mean? It's a hack a chainik. A chainik is a kettle. It's like banging a kettle. It's like just making noise. It's just making noise, doing nothing productive, nothing meaningful.
Alvin showed me since they don't hack me a China.
Hacking a chainik, right?
Your animal soul-
Herav hacking a chainik. That's what they're doing. They're just hacking a chainik. They're talking narishkeit, nonsense, right? When the godly soul wants wisdom, the godly soul wants godliness, and he has no choice. He's being held hostage like a miserable hostage, being unable to manifest and express himself. But that's not going to tell you. For me as a Chabad rabbi, I look at a person and I say, I'm going to help you be you. And oh, Rabbi, you're going to change me. I don't want to talk to you. What do you mean I'm going to change you? I'm going to help you be you. Oh, but I'm perfectly happy the way I am. Well, maybe you're not, and you don't even realize. Rabbi, you're confusing me. So we can sit down and talk. You see, it's not an easy job that I got here. I'm sorry, Bob. What are you going to say?
Well, those are we have animal soul that holds the our intellect soul, godly soul in hostage. Oftentimes, they're happy people.
Who's happy?
A lot of people that for example, those that don't come to show could give a rat's ass about the Torah, and they're just happy, jovial people. They don't know Passover from Purim, from Christmas, from.
You're talking about the people that don't come to shul.
Yeah, just people. In
They might be very happy.
They don't know whether they're happy.
You know, I once said,
They're happy, but they're-
I actually lost a member over this. I'm serious. I lost a member. Confessions of a Rabbi.
you want to try again?
I was giving a class, and I said that I don't believe. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't say it again. I might lose another member.
Or say it after the class.
No, I alluded to the point that Rob just said, that maybe people who think they're happy are not as happy as they think they are. Maybe they're not as fulfilled as they could be. Maybe they're just in a state of unconsciousness where they don't even know what they don't even know. And I said it in a slightly less explained way. I said, I don't think they're happy. And this guy gets so mad at me, he just disaffiliated. What?
In today's portion for Tuesday, don't they allude to that where you don't even know, so God's got to say, really shake you up and say, hey.
You talking about the Chumash for today?
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the one on Tuesday.
You mean the Psalm of the day? Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not black and white. They're not happy, but they think they're happy. Maybe they could be happier.
Oh, happier is a nice way to put it.
To say that somebody who doesn't attend shul
Yeah, that's a little intense.
is not a happy person.
Yeah,
in
happier.
life.
Go ahead, Harvey.
I would say fulfilled.
Ooh, that's a nice word. Fulfilled, yeah.
More about-
You might be happy, you might not be fulfilled.
Yeah, because if you're more in touch with your godly soul, and I'm not denigrating anyone's intellectual ability. I'm really not. But if you're more in touch with your godly soul and your intellect, how good or bad whatever your intellect is, I think you're more contented. I think you
Yeah.
become more fulfilled.
I don't think it's a religious thing.
I think is what going to shul does.
Well, I don't think it's a shul thing necessarily. It's like a marriage. You can have people that are in a marriage and they're okay. They're kind of surviving. But then you send them to therapy, and guess what happens? They could become in a much happier marriage. Well, those kind of therapists I don't deal with. But if you send them to therapy and they learn about themselves and learn about their triggers and they learn about, their needs, then what happens is suddenly they become happier. And they don't realize that before they weren't really as happy as they could have been.
And I'd add the word contentment.
Contentment's a good word. Fantastic.
You always hear the expression, you should have nachas from your children, from your grandchildren. Why don't you have nachas from yourself?
I like to wish that to people. I like to wish people that they should have nachas from themselves. Yeah, I like that. So good morning to everybody. Fran and Rocco's mom and Terry and Corey and Pamela and Lauren and Raymond. Ooh, that is true only in the animal soul. Okay. A saying says, Stacy, a saying is the only happy people I know are the people I don't know well. Cool. I got to tell you, I met a Jew here. He's a big businessman from Virginia. You probably know him. You know Larry? You know Larry from Virginia? I met him when I met him for the first time.
Big Larry from Virginia.
No, he's a beer distributor. Anyways, I met him and I was talking to him. I said to him, have you ever heard of Chabad before? He said, yeah, I know Chabad is. So what do you know about Chabad? Chabad is, he says with his southern drawl, he says, Chabad is the happy Jews. I said, you said it better than I could have. I said, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. Anyway, so let me just continue this beautiful idea. So now that we understand that the godly soul is actually held hostage in the animal soul, we now begin to understand how this is personal and why we need to remember the Exodus every single day. A very practical example that we're about to give is, like the Gemara says, the Gemara tells us a story in Brachas of a thief who's a Jewish thief, a Jewish ganef. I think it was Ben Gurion who said that when will we know we have founded a Jewish state? When we have some of our own homegrown thieves. So,
No, it wasn't that. It was ladies of the night.
Oh, is that what he said? Ooh,
Yeah.
maybe I'm giving the sanitized version. Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
sanitized version.
Okay.
Someone
So
came and said, we have prostitutes. Aha, we have pride. or something
yeah.
like that.
So what happened is that the Gemara tells us a story of a Jewish thief who's tunneling, is about to break into a house, and before he breaks into the house, what does he do? The thief, before he breaks into the house, he makes a prayer. Makes a prayer. The Gemara asks, "Whoa, what? Why would he be making a prayer? Why would the thief be making a prayer? If he's making a prayer, it means he believes in God. If he believes in God, then why would he be violating the will of God by breaking into a house?" The Gemara is like all confused. And the Gemara answers he has an insincere or incomplete faith. Of course he believes in God. Who else is he praying to? But his faith is weak. Qualitatively, he's not making it his own. He's not personalizing his faith. He believes in God. He just doesn't think that God applies to him. Right? So this is a beautiful example of how the godly soul is being held hostage in the animal soul. The godly soul still believes in God, but it's just not able to express itself. It's not strong. It's not able to control the body. So, in other words, the animal soul is about to break into a house, and he tells the godly soul, "No, you with me or not? Can you do something useful? Make a prayer at least." But he's not really able to control. He's not holding the reins of the horse, right?
It's like the expression, there aren't any atheists in the foxhole.
And there's no atheists in a foxhole. When push comes to shove, right?
In the Tanya, they talk about this constant struggle, and it says that God gets more pleasure from people who are struggling.
Yeah.
Chassidic, which is
Right. It's a big theme.
Who doesn't struggle.
It's a big theme in Tanya.
We were designed to have.
Let me just repeat that for our listeners. So
we were designed for this.
What Chuck is saying is that he's connecting this to the idea that's expressed in Tanya at least 2 or 3 times, that the purpose of God creating us this way is not because God is a sadist and likes to see us struggle and suffer, but rather because the pleasure that God derives from evil being, what's the word? Curbed or suppressed. When evil is suppressed, it is extremely pleasurable for God, right? So that's an idea which is developed in Tanya. I won't expand on it right now, but it's Tanya chapter 27. When Tanya develops that theme, a beautiful concept. Let's look at this idea inside the text, so we can really get to feel for ourselves what it means to be a hostage to ourselves on a psychological level. You want a book? We're on page 365, second paragraph, 365. The effect of the animal soul on the godly soul is so great that even when the godly soul manages to concentrate on a matter of godliness, the subject will affect it only to a limited extent. The godly soul will be unable to break the shackles of the animal soul in discharging either of the primary manners of service. What are the primary manners of the godly soul's service? One of the most powerful tools of the godly soul to be able to handle its relationship with the animal soul, there's that of iskafia, which is subjugating or suppressing evil, or ishapcha, which is transforming evil into good. These are two very, very powerful themes in Chassidus. We just discussed iskafia, what Chuck mentioned from Tanya, which is the idea that you want to say slander and you choose not to say lashon hara. You want to hold on to the money and you make a choice to give the money to tzedakah. You want to stay in bed and you make the choice to jump out of bed and to do a mitzvah, right? So that would be subjugating evil. Transforming evil is a service which is unique to tzaddikim, to the righteous, that are actually able to transform the evil into good. So the God. So
If you put an M in front of it, that'd be mishpach.
No, it's not that. No,
That's a
it would actually be ishapcha is actually an Aramaic word. Mishpacha is Hebrew. Ishapcha means it's a different root. It's hafach, which is transformation. Yeah, okay. The root is transformation, not family cohesion. So the godly soul is actually disarmed by the animal soul, to the point that it's really weak. Though the godly soul manages to understand the spiritual matter, this comprehension lacks the power to permeate the individual as a whole. You just don't have control over the body, because you got this very rowdy roommate. Can you imagine trying to run a normal household with a roommate that is just a hooligan? There's a famous saying in the Talmud: the thief, while at the mouth of the tunnel, calls out to God. Which means that a thief, just before entering the tunnel he has dug in order to gain illegal entry, will ask God that he be successful in his thievery. It's like the Arabs, the jihadists, they pray to Allah before they kill people. Mm-hmm. Hello? Mm-hmm. You pray to God before you kill people? How does that even make sense? What kind of bloodthirsty God are you believing in? Right? They actually believe that their God wants them to kill people. It's quite traumatic. But my Muslim friends tell me that the Quran doesn't actually preach murder.
That's correct.
And that the jihadists are bastardizing the Quran.
Correct.
Right?
In fact, people of Islam faith will say that it's corrupting.
That they give them a very, very bad name, right? Either way, you look at these guys that are praying for God's assistance in murdering as many civilians as possible, and you realize that this is some messed up faith, right? What's going on over here? The fact that he calls out to God shows that he believes in God and divine providence. Clearly, you're dealing with a believer here. The thief believes that if God should so desire, he can assure him success in his thievery. He believes that God is the almighty being. However, the thief's belief in divine providence does not affect his actions. It's very shallow faith. and he goes about doing his will, doing something opposed to God's will, this is because the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination of thievery, dims his understanding. The same holds true with regard to the godly soul's spiritual comprehension. Even its own understanding of spirituality is dimmed and constricted by the animal soul and does not achieve its desired effects. Now, I've got to ask you a question. How do you translate the word corporeal? What does it translate? Corporeal is the body. That's the isn't. Okay, so you're gonna have to help me understand this next piece of here because it's not making sense to me. Physical body. Okay, fine. So corporeal means physical body. Let's see. So it says over here, man's natural tendencies are reflected in his emotions. I might need to go to the original Yiddish here to understand what this next paragraph is talking about because I don't really understand it. Man's natural tendencies are reflected in his emotions. What does that mean, natural tendencies? I don't know.
That's what you're saying.
Man's default is reflected in his emotions. Okay, we therefore observe that he who has refined corporeal tendencies will have refined emotions as well, while he who possesses gross corporeal tendencies will have gross or sometimes corrupt emotions. Okay, I don't really understand that particular paragraph yet. I will eventually, hopefully. What?
Give an example of eating.
Yeah.
I said earlier. So eating is a corporal tendency. So if you can control that controls the rest of your emotions, your psyche, all of that. The thing is, you have to get.
So does your body control your emotions, or your emotions control your body?
This says that the default.
Natural tendencies are actions.
Your natural tendency would be to eat.
So that's your desire. What is that?
Bodily tendency. Right? Yeah, your emotion.
Well, it says.
I mean, if eating makes you feel good,
That's how it's defined.
As
Relating to your body versus your soul.
It says
Right.
Having
Right.
consistency of.
Intellect.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. So is it emotions or not emotions? I don't
It's
understand.
emotions.
Yeah, I saw that one.
the default.
Yeah.
What did you say? You said that the animal.
I said I don't
soul-
understand what it's saying.
No,
This is
the animal soul is the one who has
He's the
control.
driver. He's the driver.
Right, he's the driver, and you
He's the
need to
prominent
get
soul.
the godly soul to take control over the ungodly soul, the animal soul. So here too, your emotion is if you sit down at the table, you would keep eating because it gives you pleasure to keep putting food in your mouth. But at some point, you have to.
It's talking about two people. One has refined physical tendencies, and the other one has corrupt bodily tendencies. I don't even know what a tendency is. Look, let me leave it. Let me do a little more research on this. I want to see the original text of it and try to understand what it's talking about. But let me just tell you where it's going, okay? Let me tell you where it's going. I think by now we've understood the problem. We've understood the problem. We understand, okay, we're prisoners in Egypt. All right, time to get out of Egypt. How are you going to break out of Egypt? I think this is part of the answer, Rob. I have a feeling that what this is talking about is the beginning of the answer. Because what he's going to say is like this, is that the ticket...
Wait, look at the next paragraph.
Yeah.
I think that explains your example of a child.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah. Okay.
You observe that a child, since his intellect is not yet developed, desires petty things. While
Okay, fine. So let me just say this early because I don't want to go too much over time here. I'm just going to say this. Yeah, I think that holds the key. So my understanding of this paragraph is that it's the beginning of the answer, which is to break free from slavery from Egypt. How do we break free from Egypt? This is the way we do it. That there is a ticket to come out of Egypt, and that is something that God built into our souls. Physiology. Is that a paradox? The physiology of the soul or the anatomy of the soul, that there's a natural default inside of our soul. If we can take advantage of this mechanism, we will break free from Egypt. Remember how we said before that the intellect is dominant in the godly soul and the emotions is dominant in the animal soul, right? Man was created in a way where your intellect naturally controls your emotion. Your intellect naturally controls your emotion. I was having a chat with my son yesterday. He's off to yeshiva. He went to Chicago yesterday, yeshiva. And there's something which I want him to do. And he doesn't want to do it. And he says to me, Tati, explain it to me. If you explain it to me, if I understand exactly why you want me to do this particular thing that you want me to do, I'll be able to do it. And I thought it was being very, very honest, because on the one hand, I'm asking him to do something which he clearly doesn't want to do, but I want him to do, right? He says, if you can explain to me why it's important, then I'll be able to. He's really manifesting to me this idea. So I did that. Now,
Yeah.
Time will tell. But the idea that I'm saying is like this: is that intellect naturally controls the emotions. Within the animal soul, the intellect is recessive to the godly. To the emotions within the animal soul. It's like an animal. The animal has a brain, but the brain serves the animal. No, let me finish my point. I know it sounds a little confusing, but in the godly soul, in a human being, just comparing a human and an animal, a human is a thinker, an animal is a beast. It's not bad, it's not good, it just is what it is, right? The brain of the animal is there to help the animal figure out how to get its next meal. The brain of the human is there to help it solve problems and change the world and change its life, right? So what I'm saying is, guys, is like this, and this is the key to where we're going. That if you can master, if you can take control of your intellect, of your godly soul's intellect, then its effect will be not only on the emotions of the animal, on the emotions of the godly soul, it will also put the yoke onto the animal as well. It starts right over here. The way out of Egypt is by first filling your mind with godly wisdom. When you're able to fill your mind with godly wisdom, that's when the animal soul will naturally become submissive. That's what it means. In other words, if you jump into a raging bull arena, right? Then who's in control, the animal or the human? Yeah. In the rage, the animal's in control. But if you're, that's because there's like no intention other than what's intent. Let me just finish this. The intention of the raging bull arena is to just entertain, right? Because nobody knows what's going on. But imagine if the human being's got a very clear goal of where he's going. He knows exactly where he's going. The animal will follow suit. When the human knows where he's going, the animal will follow suit. That's the key to the answer. We'll carry on Thursday whenever we carry on this class. But the idea I want you to think about is that intellect holds the key. That's your ticket to break out of Egypt. Meditate, reflect, fill your mind up with godly wisdom. That's your key out of Egypt. Thank you very much. Sorry, Harvey.